General manager of the Arizona Cardinals, Monty Ossenfort, meeting with the media as we speak. Starting to learn a little bit of his plans for the offseason when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, what they might be prioritizing. And one of the things that I've seen come across the timeline from Omar Ruiz on the NFL Network was asked about Trey McBride, and Monty called it a priority for them this offseason, signing him to an extension, but said there's no timetable to get a deal done for Trey McBride entering the final year of that rookie contract. And could the Trey McBride contract extension be the most important thing this team does this offseason? Because we've spent a lot of time on this show. We've dedicated a lot of segments to the dream offseason for the Arizona Cardinals and different scenarios, different permutations of signing this guy or signing that guy. Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, trading for Myles Garrett. The Browns today reinforced their stance. Nothing has changed. They're not interested in trading Myles Garrett. The Raiders, their new general manager, saying that they expect Max Crosby to be there for a really long time. But we've talked about all of these different options, these different timelines that could play out for the Cardinals this offseason. But all of it has been through the focus of additions. Players outside the building currently that would be brought in to help this team. Could perhaps a Trey McBride extension be the most important thing that they do this offseason? Could it be more important than what they do throughout this offseason? Because I think the way they handled Trey McBride in this contract extension would be another example of this front office being different than the previous regime. This front office having the correct short and long-term vision and having the right priorities and not looking at this through a one-year lens, but having that 3-5-year time horizon. Because remember, this offseason, we could be having conversations right now about re-signing Budda Baker and James Conner. That is a realistic world we could be living in today, where those contract extensions with Budda Baker and James Conner don't get done in the middle of the season like they did. And we are talking about, will the Cardinals be able to re-sign their defensive leader in Budda Baker and their offensive leader and offensive captain in James Conner? But instead, a well-run, well-organized, forward-thinking front office understands, I got to get these guys locked in right now. I have to take this off the table. There's a lot of work to do in the offseason. There's other players I got to re-sign. There's free agency I got to attack. I have to focus on the draft. There's a lot of roster overhaul on a year-to-year basis. I don't want to add to that trouble. I don't want to add to that stress by having Budda Baker and James Conner, not only two big names, but two leaders of my team, two of the more important players on my team. I'd hate to now have to add that to the bucket of things that I have to work on this offseason. So you know what? Monty and company didn't even let it get to this point. They signed those guys during the year. Trey McBride's no different. We said this the moment the season was over. Budda done, James done, now it's Trey's turn. Trey McBride's going to be the next guy that gets an extension. He's going to have that deal signed, sealed, delivered before he steps foot on the field week 1 of the regular season. It's going to be done. Cardinals are not going to mess around. They've shown it to you. They've showed you the playbook. They've showed you the roadmap. If we believe a player fits our core, if we believe a player fits our identity of this football team, and he's a good football player, Trey McBride, a very good football player, very important to what this team does offensively. The number one option at times for this team. Him and Marvin Harrison Jr. create quite the duo. You don't let that guy get anywhere near free agency. You get that long-term contract extension done. So what might it look like? I was poking around on Spotrac this morning, looking at Trey McBride and looking at the market value and looking at the comps and TJ Hawkinson and Cole Kmet and a bunch of guys that were around the same age, similar productions that ended up getting deals. And the way Spotrac broke it down is it was a 4-year deal, around $18 million a season. I think they had it at like 17.8. So I ask you this, would that be worth it to you? Is that too much for Trey McBride? Is $17.8 million too much for Trey McBride? Could it come at a cost? Could signing Trey McBride to that contract extension come at a cost to the Arizona Cardinals? See, this is where, if you have a general manager that you trust, if you have a general manager that you believe in, you don't worry about these things. You don't worry about a $17.8 million a year tight end because you know the contract is going to be structured in the right way. Travis Kelce just got paid $17 million. TJ Hockenson on his deal got 16.5. 17.8, that feels like it's a little bit on the higher end for Trey McBride. But that's what Spotrac says the market value is. Now, because you're signing him to an extension, you might be able to get a little bit of a deal there. Maybe you have him come in at $15, $16 million, but we've told you the next future of tight end. There was Kelce, Kittle, Hockenson, right? The big three at tight end. We've talked about the new big three at tight end. We've talked about Sam Laporta. We've talked about Brock Bowers. And I think Trey McBride also needs to be involved in that conversation. So these three guys are going to reset the market. They are going to reset what this number might look like. And so maybe it's $17 million. Remember, Travis Kelce just signed a deal that averaged $17.1 million a year. I don't worry about what the number looks like. Here's why. Because I trust in this front office and this regime to structure the contract in a way to where the cap number might be different on a year-to-year basis, and the cash might be different on a year-to-year basis, and the signing bonus and what's guaranteed and how they structure it. I believe they are going to put together a contract structure that allows them to still do everything they want this offseason, that still allows them to maximize this window that they're in. If you have a general manager that you believe in, if you have a front office that you believe in, then you think they will structure a deal in the correct way to where this isn't going to be the only thing that they do. Because on paper, $17.9 million, which is what Spotrac says the market value is for Trey McBride. Let's just call it $16 or $17 million. Let's just not have him reset the market. Let's just have him remain within what the upper bounds have been of the tight end market. That's $17 million that you're allocating this offseason of the 50, 60 that you're going to have. It's a decent chunk. But I trust in this front office to structure it to where it's not going to take up $17 million of money that they have available to them this offseason. It'll take up less because of the way they structure the bonus, the way they structured the money guaranteed at signing, the way they structure the back parts of the deal. That's where I don't have a concern that it comes at a cost. I don't think it is a and or. I don't think it is a you can sign Trey McBride or do X, Y, and Z. I think you can do both because I believe in a front office to structure the deal in the correct way. I believe in a front office that is already thinking ahead on this, just like they did with Budda Baker, just like they did with James Conner. They didn't let it get to a point where these guys even were tempted to hit free agency and sign someplace else. Those two guys signed in the middle of the season. Right there, right on the doorstep of free agency. And they signed extensions. Why? The Cardinals put competitive offers in front of them. They like being here. They want to be here. They signed. The same thing is going to happen with Trey McBride. But it is going to come at a pretty penny because I think Trey McBride is going to usher in the new era of tight end because he's first up. Laporta will be next. And then it'll be Brock Bowers after him. These three guys are going to reset the tight end market. So if I'm the Cardinals, I'm happy that I'm coming up first here because I don't know what it's going to look like when Laporta asks for his deal. I don't know what it's going to look like when Brock Bowers asks for his deal. So get this done. Get this locked in. When you have young players that you believe in, locked in, long-term, it just gives you so much more flexibility because you know. It's a guarantee. Every single year, I've got this guy at this position. Done deal. I don't have to worry about the market. I don't have to worry about what other tight ends are getting. I've got my guy locked in. So it's going to cost a pretty penny. I think it's going to reset the market because I think Trey McBride is going to usher in the next era of tight ends cashing in. And it's all about timing in this league. When you hit free agency. Trey McBride's not even going to get a chance to hit free agency. That might come at a cost for the Cardinals. They might have to pay a little bit of a premium. I don't know if there's going to be a team-friendly discount. They might have to pay a little bit more so that he doesn't hit free agency. But good front offices are thinking ahead. Good front offices are thinking about these things way ahead of time. And you can tell that the Cardinals know that this is a priority. And this might be the most important thing they do this offseason because it gives them stability. They're still going to do a lot of other things to improve their roster. Don't worry, a Trey McBride extension is not going to come at the sacrifice of them not being able to do something else. But getting this done, it helps the 2026 offseason, the 2027 offseason, those future offseasons where I don't have to worry about having a premier tight end in my offense. I don't have to worry about having a number one wide receiver because I drafted Marvin Harrison Jr., and when the time comes, I'll give him an extension. Good forward-thinking front offices are always looking 4, 5, 6 moves ahead, looking 2, 3 years down the road. I have full trust and faith in this front office that they're thinking this way. You saw it with the way that they did the James Conner and the Budda Baker situations. And I don't think Trey McBride is going to be any different. But it's going to come at a number that might be some sticker shock to a lot of you. But don't worry, because I don't think it's going to impact anything that they'll be able to do this offseason. And again, a new deal that they sign right now might only kick in next year. They might increase his money a little bit this year, but it would only kick in after next year. So it doesn't really impact what you're going to do this year. Doesn't change what you're going to do because it's going to be structured in the right way. He might get a little bit of a raise this year as part of an extension. But then you're talking next year and beyond.